Mazinger Z is a Japanese super robot manga series written and illustrated by Go Nagai. The first manga version was serialized in Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump from October 1972 to August 1973, and it later continued in Kodansha TV magazine from October 1973 to September 1974. It was adapted into an anime television series which aired on Fuji TV from December 1972 to September 1974. A second manga series was released alongside the TV show, this one drawn by Gozaku Ota, which started and ended almost at the same time as the TV show. Mazinger Z has spawned several sequels and spin-off series, among them UFO Robot Grendizer and Mazinger Z. It was a very popular anime in Mexico during the 1980s, where it was dubbed into Spanish directly from the Japanese version, keeping the Japanese character names and broadcasting all 92 episodes, unlike the version aired in the US. Plot: Mazinger Z is an enormous super robot, constructed with a fictitious metal called superalloy Z, which is forged from a new element mined from a reservoir found only in the sediment of Mount Fuji, in Japan. The mecha was built by Professor Juzo Kabuto as a secret weapon against the forces of evil, represented in the series by the mechanical beasts of Dr. Hell. The latter was the German member of a Japanese archaeological team, which discovered ruins of a lost pre-Grecian civilization on an island named Bardos. The civilization was loosely based on the ancient Mycenae, and was called the Myk or Copyright Ni Empire in the series. One of their findings was that the Mycene used an army of steel titans about 20 meters in height. Finding prototypes of those titans underground which could be remote-controlled and realizing their immense power on the battlefield, Dr. Hell goes insane and has all the other scientists of his research team killed except for Professor Kabuto, who manages to escape. The lone survivor goes back to Japan and attempts to warn the world of its imminent danger. Meanwhile, Dr. Hell establishes his headquarters on a mobile island, and plans to use the mechanical beasts to become the new ruler of the world. To counter this, Kabuto constructs Mazinger Z and manages to finish it just before being killed by a bomb planted by Hell's right-hand man, Baron Ashura, a half-man, half-woman being. As he is dying, he manages to inform his grandson Kaji Kabuto about the robot and its use. Kaji becomes the robot's pilot, and from that point on battles both the continuous mechanical monsters, and the sinister henchmen sent by Dr. Hell. Development: in his manga work series, Go Nagai reveals that he had always loved Tetsuya Natom and Tetsujin 28 as a child, and wanted to make his own robot anime. However, for the longest time he was unable to produce a concept that he felt did not borrow too heavily from those two shows. One day, Nagai observed a traffic jam and mused to himself that the drivers in back would surely love a way to bypass the ones in front. From that thought came his ultimate inspiration, a giant robot that could be controlled from the inside, like a car. In his original concepts, the titular robot was Inaja Z, which was controlled by a motorcycle that was driven up its back and into its head. However, with the sudden popularity of Kamen Rider, Nagai replaced the motorcycle with a hovercraft. He later redesigned Inaja Z, renaming it Mazinger Z to evoke the image of a demon god. The motif of the hover pillar docking itself into Mazinger's head also borrows from Nagai's 1971 manga Demon Lord Dante, in which the titular giant demon has a human head in his forehead. Interestingly, Koji Kabuto takes his surname from the fact that he controls Mazinger Z from its head. Adaptations =anime =. Tranza Z, the first American version, in the United States, 3B Productions Limited, a production company headed by Bunker Jenkins, developed Mazinger Z for American television by producing an English dub version, which Jenkins retitled Tranza Z. This adaptation aired in 1985, and was, like many English dubbed anime shows that were on American TV at the time, re-edited for American audiences. Many of the Japanese names used in Mazinger Z were changed for its adaptation into Tranza Z. For example, Koji Kabuto became Tommy Davis, Sayaka became Jessica, Shiro became Toad, Professor Kabuto became Dr. Wells, Dr. Hell became Dr. Demon, and Baron Ashura became Devine. only 65 out of the 92 episodes were dubbed into English, as 65 was the minimum amount of episodes required for syndication. Second manga series Sequels. The Mazinger Z anime ran to a total of 92 TV episodes from 1972 to 1974. Its period of greatest popularity lasted from roughly October 1973 to March 1974, during which time it regularly scored audience ratings in the high 20s. Episode 68, broadcast March 17, 1974, achieved the series' highest rating of 30.4%, making Mazinger Z one of the highest-rated anime series of all time. It culminated in the destruction of the original robot by new enemies and the immediate introduction of its successor, Great Mazinger, an improved version of Mazinger, along with its pilot, Tetsuya Tsurugi. The idea of replacing the first robot with Great Mazinger is a variation of a death-rebirth myth found in most Japanese action series. The title character, even if it is only a robot, is never truly defeated or destroyed, only improved upon, and replaced by the next version. Koji and Mazinger Z come back in the last episodes of Great Mazinger to help their successors defeat the forces of evil. Another sequel, albeit in a different line, was introduced in 1975, with the appearance of Grendizer, set in the Mazinger and Great Mazinger story continuity that included Koji Kabuto as a supporting character. The show spawned so-called team-up movies early on, which were like longer episodes that teamed up Mazinger Z with one of Go Nagai's other creations, as in Mazinger Z vs. Devilman in 1973 as well as Mazinger Z vs. Dr. Hull and Mazinger Z vs. The Great General of Darkness, both released in 1974. In the 1980s, on behalf of Dynamic Planning, Masaneo Ebari and other independent animators not part of Toei Animation began work on a miniseries of Mazinger Z. The OVA would have been called Die Mazinger and would have presented the same characters known to the general public, starting with the main protagonist Koji. The robot would be more realistic, for example, it would have exhaust pipes and its rocket fists would not be able to automatically return to its arms. The news, initially protected by a tight secrecy, managed to leak and was spread by the specialized press. Toei protested, saying to Dynamic that the rights of the animation of Mazinger was only theirs and that they did not tolerate a Mazinger animated by others. As a consequence, the project Mazinger was blocked. This wasn't helped with the fact that Nagai was in the middle of a court battle with Toei, suing them for not properly crediting him and not paying him royalties over the creation of Gaia King in 1976. However, since then the relationship between Nagai and Toei had steadily improved. 30 years after the start of the original program, Nagai's company Dynamic Planning released a continuation of the original Mazinger series as an OVA named Mazinger Z in 2002. This work would be succeeded by the movie Mazinger Z, Death March. Onkoku Desogun, which in some ways served as a partial remake of Mazinger Z vs. the General of Darkness. Since 2007, several rumors surfaced regarding a new series which would be based on the Z Mazinger manga. In February 2009, it was officially announced a new Mazinger anime called Shin Mazinger Shugeki Z10, which later began airing on April 4, 2009. On the 2010 June issue of the magazine Hobby Japan, released on April 2010, a new OVA series was revealed. It will be called Mazinger Z ALll. The OVA is planned to have also a novelization, which will be serialized in ASCII Media Works magazine, Denjiki Hobby, and a manga, a net manga to be published in Emotion Shuto Comic-Kin. Merchandise. Mazinger remains one of Go Nagai's most enduring success stories, spawning many products in the realm of merchandising, model kits, plastic and die-cast metal toys, action figures and other collectibles. Mazinger has also been successful in the video game area, as one of the main stars in the acclaimed battle simulation game series Super Robot Wars, released by Banpsto, featuring characters and units from almost all Mazinger-related shows, alongside other anime franchises. In 1994, Banpsto released an arcade game called Mazinger Z, which was a vertical shoot-'em-up with 3 selectable characters, Mazinger Z, Great Mazinger and Grendizer. a 7-meter statue was built in a suburb called Mas del Plata in Tarragona at the end of the 70s, to be the entrance for the suburb, but the suburb was never completed and the statue remains there. DVD, Discotek Media acquired the American home video rights to the show. The result was a release of all 92 episodes of the original series in 2 volumes, Mazinger Z TV Series Vol 1 Ep 1 to 46 and Mazinger Z TV Series Vol 2 Ep 47 to 92. Reception and influence. Mazinger Z helped to create the 1970s boom in mecha anime. The series is noteworthy for introducing many of the accepted stock features of super robot anime genres, the first occurrence of mecha robots being piloted by a user from within a cockpit, the mechanical marvel that is the world's only hope, forgotten civilizations, power-hungry mad scientists, incompetent henchmen, lovable supporting characters, the scientist father or grandfather who loses his life heroically, and strangely clothed, eccentric or physically deformed villains. Mazinger Z was also the first show to feature a female robot, and a comic relief robot made of spare parts and garbage named Boss Barot, after its pilot, brash yet simple-minded gang leader, Boss. The peculiarity about this super robot, differing from the ones in earlier robot manga, is that Kaji the pilot has to fly a smaller separate vehicle to combine with the robot. In comparison, previous robots were either autonomous or remote-controlled. An activation code is used to summon the robot and another used to actually activate it. This typically signaled the start of an action sequence, and this method is still used in anime such as Gao Gaiga or Katsushin Jieg. Another characteristic is seen in the unusual use of Mazinger's formidable weaponry. Kaji would always announce with a shout the name of the superpower or attack he was about to use, including eye-fired energy beams, melting rays from the kissed plates, gale force winds, and the famous and oft-copied rocket punch attack. Most of these simple gimmicks were later incorporated in most of Nagai's robot series, and widely imitated in many other mecha shows. Although the roots of announcing the weapons can also be traced back to Toei's 1968 tokusatsu series, Giant Robo, whose US title was Johnny Socko and His Flying Robot, or even the way the heroes of Chambara Eliga and Television used to announce their sword techniques before cutting down their opponents. However, the most notable characteristic that the show brought to the super robot genre was the relationship between machines and humans. Go Nagai established from the start the premise that machines and humans could act as one, and interact between each other. Since Kaji piloted the robot from the head, he acted as the robot's brain, and almost every time Kaji would move, laugh, or suffer inside its cockpit, the robot would act the same, mimicking its pilot. Additionally, some minor characters included were cyborgs, that could act like humans, showing feelings and emotions. These ideas were used repeatedly in many similar shows. In terms of plot, despite being simplistic in its portrait of good and evil characters, the show was able to stay fresh with young audiences with an irresistible mix of action, horror, comedy, and drama, sometimes all in one single episode. Some of them were heavy on slapstick and jokes, even to the point of making fun of the hero and the villains. Others carried strong melodramatic touches. We also have a change in the concept of main female characters, who were until then modeled after the quiet, sweet, compliant Japanese ideal. Kaji's partner and love interest Sayaka Yumi is tomboyish, loud and stubborn, very unlike the traditional heroines. Kaji Kabuto was not your usual hero of the Tamiya. He was a crass, arrogant, impulsive and hot-headed ne'er-do-well who was the polar opposite of the virtuous Japanese males in the media. While Kaji's very outrageous and abhorrent behavior was very appealing to young boys, it was the bane of many establishment organizations, such as the Japanese PTA. Later sequels of the franchise share many characteristics of the Japanese tokusatsu heroes as well as 1970s kaiju films. The team-up anime Grendizer and Getter Robo G in Great Mazinger vs. The Giant Sea Monster is very similar to tokusatsu films like Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Mazinger Z also spawned the parody series, Panda Z, also by Nagai, in which the main characters of the original series are replaced by anthropomorphic animals. Mazinger also appears in the comedy OVA Sebichero Nagai Go World, where the main cast of the series is turned into super-deformed parodistic alter egos who are then sent on a wild caper across most of the Nagai's works. In 2001, the Japanese magazine Animage elected Mazinger Z TV series the 11th best anime production of all time. Guillermo del Toro has cited the show, which was a huge success in his native Mexico during the 80s, as an important influence on Pacific Rim. References. External links: Mazinger Z at Toei Animation, Mazinger Z at Anime News Network's Encyclopedia.